Good morning, Soccer Down Here family. This is Bart Keeler, and I am hosting this morning edition of Soccer Down Here in absence of John and all those who actually do real work for this network. I am just taking over for a short bit this fine Tuesday morning, a little bit chilly as the forecast calls for. Make sure you are bundled up a little bit and, prepared for the coolness of today. We're finally getting into some winter weather 2 weeks out from Christmas. I hope everyone is doing wonderfully this Tuesday morning. I have some great news to talk about with you, and that is basically focused on the W Gold Cup draw. We'll talk in depth about the three groups that we drew on Monday night in some location somewhere, recorded, but supposedly also broadcast live on Paramount Plus and the Golasso Network. Regardless, we'll get into all of that, as it is very important for not just the women's national team, but all women's national teams in the Concacaf and CONMEBOL region. We'll kind of walk through why we have two regions playing in this one tournament. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Bart. I am the host of Soccer for Us, a show here on the SCH network that covers all the U.S. soccer teams, specifically the men's and women's national teams. You probably hear me on occasion throughout the week for my Roughing Down Here segment as well. So very glad to kind of bring to you what I normally do on my own show on the main feed and on, the main show of Soccer Down Here. So with that said, I don't necessarily have a beat to drop, but we'll pretend the beat is dropped and start this Tuesday morning edition of Soccer Down Here. So like I said, the W Gold Cup draw was Monday night, broadcast live, supposedly, on the Golasso Network on Paramount Plus. I say supposedly because there were a lot of pre-recorded videos, and it was in a studio with a lot of people, clearly with some scripted questions. Susanna Collins hosted. She asked questions of some Spanish-speaking participants in the group draw. She asked the question in English. They responded in Spanish. I don't know. You had a CONCACAF representative. But what I want to commend CONCACAF for was all of this was wrapped up in 30 minutes. I mean, we drew names. We had balls flying out of pots well before 7:20. And we started this thing at 7. We were done by 7:29. That's impressive. CONMEBOL and FIFA could take note because honestly, I quite enjoyed just, the nice presentation of it all, the supposedly live drawing to make sure that it is, legit. But we'll get into why I think some of that might be a little fishy when you look at especially two groups with some tasty matchups and regional rivalries coming out of it. So that was done by CONCACAF, but like I mentioned, there are some CONMEBOL teams in here. So let's break down what is going on. There are 12 total teams in this competition. If you watch the broadcast live, you may have heard that 15 have qualified for this final tournament. That's because we're eventually going to get down to 8 CONCACAF teams and 4 CONMEBOL teams, but we still have 6 CONCACAF teams playing preliminary matches to determine the final 3 teams of each group. So you had the groups were seeded were labeled A, B, and C, seeded with the USA in Group A1, Brazil as B1, and Canada C1. Then in Pot 2, you had the 3 CONCACAF teams who qualified by winning League A of the road to the Concacaf W Gold Cup. Kind of similar to a Nations League format. Pot 3 was the 3 other Copa America semifinalists, from last year. So that is a tournament they still hosted. This is not replacing Copa America, but a tournament that is kind of combining the two teams. So those 3 are Colombia, Argentina, and Paraguay. So 3 teams that finished in the Copa America semifinals, as well as Brazil, who won the tournament. Obviously, the USA and Canada qualifying directly by by making the final of last year's. Yeah, last year's. Sorry, I had to think about what calendar year we were in. The Concacaf Olympic Championship. It was this year, actually. The Concacaf Olympic tournament they hosted, and US won. Canada had to basically play Jamaica for a playoff to qualify for the Olympics, but those two teams also still qualified for this tournament directly. Obviously, the USA and Canada, far and away the two best teams in CONCACAF as well. USA, Brazil, and Canada, all three in the top 10 of the FIFA rankings, by the way. So that's pots 1, 2, and 3. Pot 4 is, like I said, those preliminary match winners. We'll get to that in just a second. So, why are CONMEBOL teams playing in this? Well, we've talked about it a lot on SDH and also on Soccer for Us, and just in the general conversation around U.S. soccer and soccer in North America specifically. This conversation comes up a lot when we're talking about MLS and Liga MX trying to find better competition. Well, CONMEBOL and CONCACAF recognize that on the international level, both sides have some weaknesses. So they have formed a partnership to strengthen both confederations by addressing those weaknesses. CONMEBOL only has 10 teams. And really, to make their tournaments a little bit more interesting, they have to add more. So in this tournament, they bring 4. In the men's Copa America next summer, CONCACAF is bringing 6. So you see, trying to balance things out a little bit. It also makes it a little bit nicer to have more groups, meaning you get a little bit more randomization of who you're going to play. However, on CONCACAF side, the challenge has been and continues to be the quality of teams, especially on the men's side. Now, on the women's side, CONCACAF did have 6 teams qualify for the 2023 Women's World Cup. However, it was a bad one. The U.S. made it out of the group. That was it. We obviously did not make it past the round of 16. So still, while we have some solid teams, we do need a little bit more top-end competition for the U.S. and Canada. Similarly, on the women's side in CONMEBOL, past Brazil, the competition has, most of the time, been fairly weak. Now, we saw a invigorated and inspired and a flashy Colombia team at the Women's World Cup this summer, making the quarterfinals. A very good run for them. They are here as well. They finished second in that Copa America Femenina last, I hope I pronounced that right, last year. And they are a program that has tried to invest in themselves, but also invest in the CONMEBOL region as a whole. They've really tried to up their game to help the rest of the teams increase their quality as well. So you're seeing CONMEBOL and CONCACAF come together to try to just create a better tournament competition because both sides need help with that. So this is the first edition or the first showcase of that partnership. We'll have the second one in the summer for the Copa America that the U.S. is hosting. So what are these preliminaries? Well, essentially, I mentioned that the road to the Concacaf W Gold Cup was like the Nations League. You had leagues A, B, and C, and teams divided into groups of those 3 groups into those 3 leagues. A lot of math. Basically, the preliminaries are the teams that won the League B group and the teams that finished second in the League A group. All 3 of these will be played at Dignity Health Sports Park Track Stadium. February 17 is the date for those. The first one is Haiti versus Puerto Rico. Second is El Salvador versus Guatemala. And the third is Guyana versus the Dominican Republic. Those teams were drawn into groups, but they obviously still have to play those games to determine who actually is making it. So I said those are on February 17. The first match is on February 30. Now, luckily, for whoever ends up playing the U.S., spoiler alert, one of those teams is going to be playing the U.S. on February 30th. They don't have to travel far because the U.S. is playing all of our group matches in Dignity Health Sports Park, the main stadium there that the Galaxy play in Carson, California. So let's get into the groups. USA, as I said, in Group 1 gets Mexico, Argentina, and the winner of that prelim 3, Guyana versus Dominican Republic. Now, this is a pretty tasty group. Obviously, the USA and Mexico will provide some fireworks. That is going to be the final match of the group stage. But Argentina, we've seen before from a U.S. perspective, and they are a team that continues to try to grow and improve. But where this tournament specifically will help them, they have lacked the real challenges to test themselves and figure out where they can improve and where they're pretty good. Mexico and Argentina, I think, to me, symbolize two teams kind of in a similar state where you would expect them to be better, and they just need that extra TLC, if you will, in one way, shape, or form. So on the Mexican side, you've had a lot of investment in the women's game in Mexico. Liga MX has the clubs have put a lot of money into their women's programs. It's a very fun league to watch. The quality is still not where it needs to be to produce top end talent. And obviously Mexico, I mentioned there were 6 Concacaf teams at the World Cup this past summer. Mexico, not one of them. They did not get out of their group even at the Concacaf W Championship in 2022. They finished 4th in the group with the U.S. So the second straight CONCACAF competition that the U.S. and Mexico have been grouped together. And Argentina, a team that needs that investment from their federation, but a tournament like this can really help them because of not just prize money. There's a lot of sponsorship money in this as well, but also just stiff competition, but against teams that are probably more at their level, especially when you look at them and Mexico. So the last one of the Guyana and Dominican Republic, we'll find out. There's not much to say about those teams. The U.S. should very easily defeat them. That is the first game of the tournament, though, and that is pretty tough if you're going to play a prelim match and then 3 days later go play your first group stage match. So they'll have at least 4 matches in the tournament, which is kind of nice. The top 2 teams get out of the group. Let's go through the rest of the groups. Group B is Brazil's group. They will be playing all of their games at Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego, California. The CONCACAF team representing is Panama. The other CONMEBOL team is Colombia. And the preliminary match is Haiti versus Puerto Rico, which is match 1. Now, Haiti is actually the fifth highest rated, CONCACAF team. Interestingly, that they are in the preliminaries. It proves that CONCACAF is a stout competition in that middle pack. This, to me, is probably the group of death. I mentioned Colombia, a team very much on the rise. Brazil, a team that they're ranked number 9 in the world. They are always favorites whenever they enter a tournament. Panama, no slouch, a very fun team to watch. Got to watch them live. They put up a great offensive fight against France. In the game, I got to see them play the final group match of their 2023 Women's World Cup run. Those are teams that, are going to challenge each other. And then if you put Haiti in the mix, a team, again, that qualified for the 2023 Women's World Cup, that is a team that adds a lot of quality, and I would totally expect them to get past Puerto Rico in that preliminary match. So Group B, going to be a very tough group. You look at the FIFA rankings, Brazil 9, Panama 55th, Colombia 22nd, and then Haiti is 52nd. So Haiti technically ranked above Panama in the FIFA World Rankings. So that's Group B. Group C features Canada as a seeded team. They will play all of their matches at Shell Energy Stadium down in Houston, home of the Houston Dash and Houston Dynamo. Group C includes, as I said, Canada, Costa Rica, Paraguay, and the winner of El Salvador and Guatemala. Now, That is a tasty prelim because that is a rivalry as old as time. However, uh, rankings wise, this is a fairly easy group for Canada. Canada ranked 10th, Costa Rica 43rd, Paraguay 49th, and then the El Salvador, Guatemala 115 and 83rd, respectively. So you look at this for Canada, similar to the U.S., they should be fine. It's those other teams that are going to be fighting for that second spot specifically. And, Costa Rica has shown well, but they seem to always hit a ceiling, especially in CONCACAF competitions and when we see them at the World Cup. But I would expect them to get the better of Paraguay, and I would definitely expect them to be able to get the best of either El Salvador or Guatemala. But that Costa Rica-Paraguay match is going to be very, very interesting, and obviously is going to determine who is second in the group. So I mentioned that, we have 3 groups, and I've mentioned that the top 2 get out, and that is true. However, we're going to have some third-place teams get out as well because we're going to have quarterfinals. Now, all of these quarterfinals will be played at LA's BMO Stadium, home of Angel City and LAFC. I have a little bit of a bone to pick with CONCACAF over this. So all 4 of these matches are going to be played within 2 days. So you're going to have double headers both days back to back. I understand they're trying to get through the tournament, and I respect that. I understand that they're trying to, keep people close by. Obviously, BMO Stadium in LA is a fantastic venue, but having 4 matches over 2 days is going to make, I feel sorry for whoever's playing in the final match of this, because it is going to be really tough for them field-wise. And I think that's really narrow-sighted by CONCACAF. They could have tried to find one of these dates that worked with Dignity Health Sports Park. Now, the problem is both of these, as I said, are March 2nd and 3rd. We expect the MLS schedule out Friday, by the way. We expect that schedule to probably interfere with us somewhat. So I am curious if that was one of the reasons, but I don't love it. I don't love it. I think CONCACAF could have done 2 of these at Dignity Health Sports Park, 2 of them at BMO, and it would have been fine. So how are these quarterfinals going to shake out? Well, it's actually quite interesting. So I'm not even quite sure how this is going to work. I even watched this, and it didn't quite make sense to me. But you have, for the quarterfinals, listed just 1 versus 8, 4 versus 5, 2 versus 7, and 3 versus 6. So 1 and 8 at the top, and 4 and 5, the pairing for their semifinal match. Also on the Saturday, 2nd versus 7th will play, and then 4th versus 5th, and 3rd versus 6th will play on Sunday. So unsure how that's truly going to work. I'm sure CONCACAF will have some better explanation as we get closer to the tournament. But if you're the U.S., you have to look at this and go, we have a very winnable match every group match day, which is great. Mexico, Argentina, and then either Guyana or Dominican Republic are 3 teams. Those are teams that you should be beating, and you should be beating well. And you're going to have to run up the score a little bit. Brazil is going to struggle. Canada, though, may be able to score some against the teams in their group. So the quarterfinals are a little tricky, but the semifinals are pretty simple. They're at Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego, and the final is on March 10th, a Sunday, at Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego. So that's pretty cool that they're giving a 35,000 seat stadium to the final to really kind of, hit home that this is a important tournament. And it is, because CONCACAF for the longest time used this women's championship or women's Gold Cup or whatever title that they used a couple. They used it as a double dip for World Cup qualifying and Olympic qualifying. And this is now a standalone, as they called it, a flagship tournament. So a flagship tournament. So it is nice to see CONCACAF giving the women's teams their standalone championship that doesn't have to be tied into anything else. Now, could these results possibly be used for something in the future? Yes, but I would imagine it's just more CONCACAF tournaments. And CONCACAF has pretty much said as much, which is quite nice. So to recap, the U.S. is in Group A. They'll be playing in order. Prelim winner 3, which is Guyana or Dominican Republic, on Tuesday, February 20. Then on Friday, February 23rd, the U.S. will play Argentina. And the final group match will be on Monday, February 26th against Mexico. The knockouts start on March 2nd and 3rd for the quarterfinals, March 6th for the semifinals, and March 10 is the final at Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego, California. So that's a wrap on the 2024 Concacaf W Gold Cup draw. I hope that we will be able to talk a lot about this throughout that tournament. I hope to also be able to go to the tournament. Official match times and tickets will be made available at a later date, but you go to concacaf.com/W Gold Cup/tickets if you are interested in going. They are available on Friday. Now, real quick, before we get out of here, I do want to mention that the Men's College Cup finished up on Monday night. Clemson captures its 4th title in program history, its 2nd in 3 years. And really, a shout out, because Clemson is definitely in the STH footprint. They're absolutely with the best soccer program in the South, on the men's side specifically. Certainly the one that's closest to Atlanta that is the most successful. And they get their 4th title. The captain, Brandon Parrish, opened the scoring in the 27th minute, unassisted. Parrish with a bomb from outside the box. I would saltily, I'll say that Clemson has scored some very lucky tournaments up there in Louisville, where these men's college cup matches took place. Well attended, it looked like. Obviously, we can only see one side, and from when I was buying tickets, the tickets were only available on the TV side of the screen, but looked pretty full. And credit to Clemson, though, they have gotten some pretty lucky goals, but you got to take shots to hit them. They've been great goals, I should say, but they've been lucky to find the back of the net. They're well hit, but some of those, especially Parrish, you may have thought it could have ricocheted off of someone. It didn't, and it just kind of found its way into the corner to give them a 1-0 lead going into the half. And then they had a second one in the 70th minute by Ousmane Sylla, assisted by Alex Maynard. He is a senior, by the way, from Senegal. He is credited now with the eventual winner because Notre Dame gets a penalty kick goal from Patty Burns. So Clemson getting their 2nd national title in 3 years. Second time they've beaten Notre Dame en route to a national title, by the way. The last time was in the semifinals. So congratulations, Clemson, your 4th national title in program history. And like I said, what looked to be a pretty well-attended men's college cup in Louisville, Kentucky. Let me run through the all-tournament team real quick from this year's men's college cup. Arnal Farnos from Oregon State, midfielder. Yutaro Sukata from West Virginia, the forward. Ino Nto, the forward from Notre Dame. Brian Dowd, Notre Dame's goalkeeper. KK Bafor, Notre Dame midfielder. Brandon Parrish, the captain of Clemson and their midfielder. Sean Smart, Clemson defender, who had the game winner against West Virginia in the semifinal. Alex Maynard from Clemson. Pappy Marboy from Clemson. Ousmane Sylla from Clemson. And also the Clemson goalkeeper, Joseph Ndema. Congrats to those gentlemen for making the all-tournament team at the Men's College Cup. That is it for the college soccer season, by the way. Florida State champions, Clemson champions. The South got something to say when it comes to college soccer. That's pretty awesome. Well, that is all for this Tuesday morning show. I will be back with you on Friday afternoon for a quick hit to talk about the U.S. Soccer National Training Center. Going to learn some more stuff about that this week. We know it's in Fayette County, but hope to have some more information for y'all come Friday. Thanks for letting me talk with y'all this morning. I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday. Mucha plata, y'all.